Hey now, happy vibes, my friends. Welcome back to my podcast, Vibes by Alicia, where I believe in spreading killer vibes that light you up and give you that kick in the ass to craft the life you wish to live. This sacred space is dedicated to the lovers of all things business, travel, and lifestyle. Hey, it's about time you get the scoop on the latest vibes, so let's get to it. Everyone, I am so excited to present to you my guest today. I am really excited about this because it is someone that, I've been having in my periphery, someone I've been looking at and researching and looking and I need to have her on my podcast because she's got a very interesting life. And once I met her and I've gotten to know her a little bit more, I think it's so fascinating, the trajectory her life has taken. Dr. Pallavi Archana Kumbla.
Yes.
Got it.
Correct.
Is a doctor. She completed general surgery residency at the university, and I practiced it. And I'm like, I messed it up.
You did.
Sorry about that.
You did better than most people do.
So she's a general surgery residency at the University of Arkansas for medical sciences. After receiving her board certification in general surgery, she then went on to pursue a second residency in plastic and reconstructive surgery at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. Under the supervision of ACPS and the surgeons, Dr. Kumbla performs consultations, a broad range of plastic surgery procedures, and cosmetic injectable treatments for you at a very significant reduced rate. And I'm so excited to have you because everybody, welcome Dr. Kumbla. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here because, one thing that my listeners and my audience is always asking questions about, it's where do you go to get, this done or that done?
Right.
A lot of the women who listen to the podcast are women like my age, 45, over 40, they're in a different stage in their life. We're, our kids are teenagers. Right. We're ready to get our bodies back, We're working out, eating well. And then, you see something for me, I was I need a breast lift. This is just not working for me.
Yeah.
And that's how I went to the ACPS, the Aesthetic Center, and I met Dr. Hustak, and then I met some of the other ladies there.
Yeah.
And so it just became like a family.
Yeah.
And so it is a family, right?
Yeah. ACPS is great. I mean, when it came time for me to decide after all of my training about doing an additional year, I was I want to do a year in aesthetics. It's its own detailed, very different environment in plastic surgery. And after I interviewed at several programs, in my gut feeling, I really felt that this program was the best in the country. And for multiple reasons. I mean, they have amazing surgeons there that are talented. They're doing the latest cutting edge surgeries.
Uh-huh.
But more than that, they have amazing people there, amazing mentors.
Yeah, for sure.
The work environment, from everybody in the OR staff to the clinic. It's been such a great year. I'm only here for a year. I'll be a little bit sad when I leave, but I think it's one of the best decisions I've made in my career.
I love that because, I often wonder, what motivates you to go into aesthetics? So I want to ask you that question because I know that from your background, I know that you have medicine in your background, but what motivated you or what encouraged you? What made you think you wanted to do aesthetics? What made you think you wanted to do surgery and cosmetic surgery?
Yeah. So just to kind of go back a little bit, when I did my plastic and reconstructive training at UAB, which is in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where I'm from, it's very, very heavy on reconstructive surgery. And it's amazing. I mean, we did a lot of hand surgery, lots of complex microsurgery with the microscope for breast reconstruction, head and neck cancer, trauma. I mean, all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
But one of the nice parts about that program was that, it was originally created by a very prominent plastic surgeon whose name is Dr. Vasquez, and he's an amazing surgeon all around, but he also is very, very good at aesthetics. And so he actually trained my former program director. His name is Dr. Delatorre. And, I remember in residency for the past 3 years, I would go with him to his clinic and I would watch him speak to these aesthetic patients. Mm-hmm. It's definitely an art. And that's what I learned from him. It's different from the reconstructive side.
Okay.
And it's definitely something that, you have to appreciate and you really have to understand that there's a science and there's an art to approaching aesthetic or cosmetic surgery. And for me, I realized after watching those people, like this is what I wanted to do. And that was part of the reason why I chose to do an extra year, was really to spend a full year watching all these aesthetic surgeons, you know, in their craft. And for me to understand how to become like that. And then I think, you know, for the reconstructive patient, right, you know, they have cancer, they have trauma. It's a totally different element. But for the aesthetic patient, you know, everybody deserves to feel great about themselves.
Exactly.
And everybody deserves that opportunity. And so while it's not for things like cancer or trauma, it definitely is life-changing. And there's a specific approach to that. And I felt like that was important for me to do. And so that's part of the reason why I chose it.
Wow. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just assume that it's just based on vanity, but it's a lot of inner work that goes into it as well.
Yeah.
And confidence. Like confidence is such an important thing for a woman, especially as she gets older.
Correct.
And she starts to feel like she's not worthy of attention or worthy of herself anymore. And this can really bring her back.
Yeah.
Back to life, basically.
Yeah. I agree. Everybody's life is completely different. Nobody has the same life, you know, and some people are moms, some people are not mothers, some people, you know, have a very career-driven life. But at the end of the day, what ties them all together is that they want to feel good about themselves. And, you know, with time, everybody ages. You know, you age, I age, everybody does. And so this specific, you know, subspecialty in plastic surgery is designed to restore or rejuvenate kind of a more youthful component that I think people want and they deserve to have.
Yeah, and I think it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
It really changes. It not only changes the person's body, but it changes the way she approaches her life.
Yeah.
You know, I do remember just from personal experience, just feeling so much more confident, wanting to wear things that I would typically not wear, being more sexually free too, feeling more at ease with my husband, not feeling like I'm always just like covering, just feeling so much more comfortable in my body and feeling like, you know what, this is okay. This is good. I feel good. I feel better.
Yeah.
And it just translates to other things in life. You just approach things in a more confident way.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't either. I mean, I don't presume to know anybody's life or kind of how they live their life, but my mentality is everybody should live the life that they want to live and how they want to live. And so if I can add that confidence or restore that confidence to do whatever activities they want to do, whether it's fit in a certain type of clothing or be able to like go to the gym and feel comfortable.
Exactly.
That's what I want to do. And that's the service I want to provide.
Love that.
So, I mean, you know, to me, that's important. And, you know, I mean, even for myself, I think, you know, there are things that I definitely want to feel more confident in. How can I change that? And so that's kind of what I see when I look at these patients who come in.
And I remember you mentioned something about your mother was a breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor.
She is, yeah.
And so that got you thinking about, you know, reconstructive surgery. So tell me a little bit about that and that experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, my mom has been a huge influence in my life. I mean, you know, she immigrated here and then she became a nurse and, you know,
she immigrated from where?
She immigrated from India and then she got her citizenship. She became a nurse. And I remember at a young age, you know, both my parents, my dad and my mom, my dad's a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And no, he doesn't psychoanalyze us ever. But, you know, both of them worked very, very hard. And so from a young age, they both instilled, that work ethic. And the other thing is that they always instilled in us, you should treat everybody fairly and equally and help everybody. And so my parents are definitely a huge inspiration in my life. And so when I was in college, my mom got breast cancer.
Okay.
And, you know, for me, I remember my mom is so selfless. She didn't even want to tell us because she was like, I want my children to do well. I don't want them to be distracted. I want them to get an education.
To worry about her.
Yeah, exactly. So you have this like very strong woman, and my dad obviously helped her, who's like going through this experience. And then I remember they told me when I came home for like Christmas break, and it was devastating. But my mom, you know, had very good doctors and, you know, ultimately, like now she's a breast cancer survivor and she's doing great years later. But, you know, at that time, which was years ago, there weren't, you know, all the reconstructive options that are available now. I mean, they existed, but you had to be in a place where all those were offered to you. And like I said, the techniques have developed significantly over, the past 10 years.
It's amazing, right?
It's
Even just
really
the last 10
amazing.
years. Yeah. My mother's also a breast cancer survivor, but she didn't do anything. So she had a lumpectomy, and I remember just her feeling super self-conscious about her breast.
Yeah.
Because there was no reconstruction.
Right.
And by the way, paying for her surgery was another issue because she really didn't have insurance. So we were through charity through St. Luke's.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another component.
It's totally big component of that.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to screening and prevention for breast cancer, I mean, we definitely make huge advances in it. And I'm a very strong believer in that everybody should have access to that, whether you have the financial means or not.
Right.
And in my mom's case, she opted for no reconstruction. But I remember thinking at that time, okay, I'm going to medical school. What do I want to do? And from the moment I hit medical school, I was like, I'm going to be a surgeon. And I remember everybody was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm going to be a surgeon. One of the key things about medical school is you got to be a good test taker sometimes. But for me, I'm not the best test taker, but I work really hard and I study. So I did general surgery. And then when I did my general surgery, I remember I was sitting outside the, I think it was the Spine Institute at the hospital. And I was talking to one of my old mentors, whose name is Dr. Ewan, who's still there. He's an amazing, amazing plastic surgeon. And I told him, I'm going to be a plastic surgeon. I need your help. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a plastic surgeon. And so
what did your parents say when you said that?
My parents are amazing. And the fact that they never say no to any of the things I want to do.
Okay,
I think my
that's
parents, good. Especially coming from an Indian American, Asian background, my parents were very much supportive of whatever I wanted to do. And it's not, it's not a common thing there's lots of Asian people who do medicine, but I would say it's not that common for females who are Indian necessarily to do a surgical subspecialty.
Okay. I guess because I asked that question just because there is a perception that they're very much, dictating their kids' lives pretty much. And like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that could be the case for some people. But luckily for me, my parents, they were like, do what you want. And I was like, I want to do medicine. Okay, what do you want to do in medicine? I want to be a surgeon. And I think they were a little bit surprised by that. But the entire steps of the way, which now it's year 9, I mean, it's not an easy thing to go through. It's definitely emotionally, mentally, physically challenging. But my parents were always supportive. I mean, when I think about some of the hardest times I went through during those 9 years, they were always there for me. And they're always like, no,
awesome.
You can do this. So now on the back end, just as I'm starting my career and finally feeling, the beginnings of, doing well for myself and kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, it's all because of them.
Do you ever think about going back and just telling mom, let me help you, let me get your boobies right?
Well, interestingly, I was on the phone with my mom.
You have a doctor that can help you, mama.
I'm a firm believer, every woman should do what they want to do. And so when I was counseling patients through residency, I would tell them all the options, right? You have options for implants, you have options for using your own tissue, but even another option which caught them off guard was you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. I mean, I think the nice part about patients who get breast cancer, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So where I trained, it was the breast oncologist, the breast surgeon would see the patient, diagnose them, talk about chemotherapy, whether they needed a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. And then they would send them to the plastic surgeon. So we would see the patients at that point, and we counseled them about what are their options for reconstruction. And you meet women who are in their 20s, 30s, all the way to their 70s, all different walks of life, all different types of lifestyles. And the one thing consistently I told them, no matter who they were, was, yes, you're here in our office to discuss reconstruction, whether it be implants or your own tissue. But you have to understand, if you don't want to have anything done and you're okay with a mastectomy scar, that's a perfectly great option. And you need to understand that. And I think that definitely did not, some women never even thought that was an option. And
so there's part counseling in your part.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Talking, discussing, going through options.
Yeah. And I think as a plastic surgeon, you have to give the patients all the options and be completely honest with them. I mean, because they have to pick the best option for their life. And a lot of times they would ask me, what would you do if it was you or your mom? And I'll be honest, you know, I would tell patients, you know, about my mom. She had whatever, you know, she had a mastectomy, didn't do reconstruction. She's perfectly happy with that, you know. For myself, you know, I'll be honest, I've never thought about that situation because I haven't had the decision. Yeah. And I think if that does ever happen, I'll have to think about it more seriously. But I always tell patients, it's not about me. It's not about my mom. It's not about my family. It's about what you want to do. It's not about what your husband wants, what your children want.
Yeah, I was going to say that because some of them do whatever the other person or the partner wants them to do.
Right. And I always
like, women, this is an opportunity for you to get bigger or like, you know, that kind of thing. And it's not necessarily the best for her.
Correct. And I tell patients, you have to do what is right for you because this is your life and this is your future. And so you have to enjoy it and you have to live with it. And the most important thing is you want to be cancer free, obviously. But once you get to the reconstruction phase, you want to be able to be happy with what you're getting. And we have that ability now to create the breast for the woman, but they have to be comfortable with it.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, my advice to every patient I saw was do what you want to do, not what somebody else wants you to do or what you think I would do. I'm giving you all the options and you have time to think about it. Yeah. You know?
That's such a good advice because so many of them are listening to so many other people outside of themselves.
Yeah.
That they're not staying true to who they are.
Correct.
You know, and not listening to their own things. But why do you think there's such a stigma attached to cosmetic surgery? I mean, if they say, well, you know, they were born with a birth defect, obviously that's, you know, a good way to do it. But if it's for vanity reasons or if it's like just to look better and you know, feel better, why is there such a stigma attached to that? Like people don't even talk about it sometimes. Like they don't even say, like they're so afraid to tell anyone that they had any procedure done.
Yeah. I think judgment in our society is a huge thing. You know, I mean, everybody, and I'm guilty of it too. Everybody has opinions, right? And so when you think about plastic surgery, right, the first thing you think of is cosmetic or aesthetic surgery. Yeah. But there's a whole other side to it. And a lot of actually the aesthetic and cosmetic techniques derive from reconstructive surgery. And one of the key things that I was taught in my training was to be a great reconstructive surgeon, you have to be a great cosmetic surgeon or aesthetic surgeon. To be a great aesthetic surgeon, you have to be a great reconstructive surgeon.
Oh, interesting.
So they go hand in hand and it's a spectrum. But I think once again, you know, just like those patients who come into the hospital in the ER and have trauma or have cancer or have a wound that needs to be covered, and they also want to feel good about themselves, right? It's a functional thing, but in addition, there's this whole emotional, mental part of it. They want to feel good about themselves. Yeah. So when you switch to the aesthetic component, I don't think that it's a vanity reason at all. You know, it's not. It's that those patients also may not have a wound, may not have cancer, may not have trauma, but they want to feel good about themselves. Right. And there's 100% nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and why do we judge people for wanting to feel better about themselves?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, to be honest, it's a very kind of fine line between the two, but I think that there is the stigma, you know, where people say they don't want people to know they had cosmetic surgery or they don't want to know that they had something done. But at least for me, it's like, you know, you don't have to feel that way. You know, you should be, if we're restoring your confidence and you look great, you should be proud of that. Yeah, you should be proud of that. I think a lot of it stems from history of cosmetic surgery, social media, what we see on TV, what we read in the news. You know, there's all this kind of...
Right, and there's also this idea out there that if you didn't work hard for it, if you didn't work out and exercise and like ate super healthy, then you really don't deserve that body because you didn't work hard for it, and you're going like getting liposuction or you're getting the mommy makeover. But why do we not consider each person as a separate entity? Yeah, right. Like if that's what you want to do, then that you should be super comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that my opinion on that is the best approach is for patients obviously to diet and exercise, but some people do that and they still don't get the results that they want. And there's no shame, there's nothing wrong with visiting a plastic surgeon and saying like, okay, I've done what I can do. I want to take it to the next level. Yeah. And if that's what's going to get you back your confidence and your energy, then you should do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you shouldn't worry about what other people think. And that's what I tell patients. Yeah. You know, but I'm also very honest with patients. And I tell them if they haven't done like diet and exercise yet and haven't tried that, before they get their aesthetic surgery, they should do that because for two reasons. One, it's safer.
Mm-hmm.
It's safer from a surgical standpoint. But two, your aesthetic result, your outcome will look way better.
Yeah.
And you'll get more for what you're going into than if you don't do that. So I think there's
so true, because then you go back to being the same person you were before, thinking you solved the problem, but the problem is just temporary, and you fixed it for a little while.
Exactly.
The whole thing hasn't been addressed. I guess.
You want long-term optimal results. So really, like that's my viewpoint on it, and that's what I will counsel patients who come in.
Yeah, that's good.
And tell me that.
I'm glad that people consider that and think about those things, and not think of it as like, oh, it's just a quick fix, and then I'm going to look great and amazing forever. And it's like, no, there's like a lot of work that still has to be done. And you still have to maintain
it after,
Yeah,
and that's a key part of it. But there's nothing better than patients coming in after you've done their surgery and you can just see the change in themselves and how happy they are.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, and I love doing like makeovers for the women who go through that. Like I have had a few women who lost a lot of weight or who had just had different procedures done, and they come in and they're like, Alicia, I want to get styled and I want to do, try different things. And that is so much fun to do, because now they're trying on dresses they would have never tried before.
Right.
They're going out, they're doing things, they're traveling. It's like a whole new life has come into their body. And I love that. It's great. Craft the life you wish to live. Why not? So what is your favorite surgery to do? I know you do everything, but which one is your favorite to do?
So I think my favorites are definitely breast and body, but breast is my favorite. I think that, as women, right, we all have breasts, right? So breast augmentation, breast reduction, breast lift. And then my very favorite is revision breast surgery, which is where patients have had breast surgery already, whether it be a reduction, augmentation, lift.
Okay. And
they need either something done again or they're not quite pleased with the results, And the reason I like it is because it's challenging. All breast cases are challenging. The breast is not an easy place to operate on,
right?
Because you want to make sure that it comes out looking nicely.
Natural, right?
Natural, and that the patient is happy with it. So revision breast surgery is complicated because somebody has already been there and operated on it, and you're trying to improve what they already have.
You're not talking necessarily about a botched surgery.
No,
you're talking about okay.
So it could be sometimes that the patient had a result that they're unhappy with. Okay. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was botched or that it was done incorrectly. But maybe the patient is just not happy with it,
Yeah.
Or it could be that the patient had that surgery 10, 15 years ago, and because of aging and time, the breast has changed, Or they had surgery and they got pregnant, and now they've had changes from pregnancy. And so it's just revisionary or secondary breast surgery because they've already had something done. And so you're going back in and changing that again. But it can be challenging just because the anatomy is already different. You have to worry about things like the blood supply. So from a mental standpoint, for me, it's one of those surgeries that challenges me, and I love it.
Yeah, you like the challenge.
I like the challenge. Yeah, it's like when you're there, that's all you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I can't imagine for me, just having a breast lift was just so life changing for me, and I've had it twice now, and I think about it, and I think. The way that I was shopping changed. I started telling my husband, let's do more beach, vacations. Yeah. And I think there's a dynamic that happens in the person's life, and that woman's life, and that family life, I've been married 21 years. And I remember telling him, it's like, I feel like the older I've been married, or the more I'm married to you, the less attractive I'm becoming, because you're getting so used to me. So for me, doing that was a way for me to just sort of feel like, okay, I'm regenerating myself. I'm becoming a newer me.
You're
and like a new, and he felt that, and, that's why he was so supportive of it, and just felt like, it's something that's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
It's bringing you up. It's giving you that confidence, that kind of thing. And just, that's one thing I tell women all the time. It's like, whatever you feel like it's going to make you feel better. Yeah. You need to not even think about what other people's judgment is going to be and what they think. And it's you, it's your body.
Yeah. Ultimately. You have to live your life for yourself, not for anybody else. And attitude and the way that you think about your life is the most important thing. And if you are happy and comfortable with those things, then it'll come across. And one of the ways that comes across is through your physical manifestation, right?
Yes,
so whatever
absolutely.
we can do to help improve people's confidence and attitude, that will better their life.
I agree. Absolutely. Why do you think that there's so many women that are out there wanting to do things and they're always calling the men doctors? I've heard so many women do that.
Yeah.
I was very specific about wanting a woman just because I felt, not because I had a male gynecologist. That's not the issue for me. It was like I felt like she knew what I would want, and she was also, a woman, a mom, that kind of thing. What is that? What's going on? Like, is it because there's just so many of them out there that it's just, to me, I just feel like historically there's just so many out there that in our heads we're just like so used to it.
So I think that, if you go back to the history of any surgical field, right, it's a male-dominated field. I mean, in the past, it was mostly men. And even like my mentor, who's an amazing surgeon, and she's helped so many women with breast cancer, she trained at a time when it was mostly male-dominated. But she has made herself, immensely successful. And she actually pioneered the way for women like me. So now when you come to people of my generation, right, I honestly don't think when I was going through general surgery and even plastics, I didn't think twice about, I'm a female and this used to be a male-dominated field, because there's more women. My general surgery class was all females.
Wow.
And even in my plastic surgery residency, there were so many females. So I think the perception, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but is that women are just used to potentially having a male plastic surgeon or a male surgeon in general.
Right.
And it's now only recently that kind of the spotlight has been on females pursuing this career and females doing this. So I think what you're going to see in the future is that there will be kind of a shift in how patients approach that. And I think more and more patients will be requesting a female for all the same reasons that you said.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just we're just so used to it. And I think there's also this perception like nurses have to be women. Yeah. Like you hear a male nurse and you're like, a male nurse? What? Yeah. Like that movie Meet the Parents.
Right. I love that movie.
Yeah. And he was like a male nurse, and they were like, why didn't you just become a doctor? And it's like it's like such a crazy thing. But that kind of goes back to the idea that we're just so used to seeing a doctor
it's exactly
be a
what
male.
kind of society.
But I like
created.
that it's starting to shift, and I think with the new generations, I think they're starting to see.
Agree. And when my niece and nephew grow up, I'll tell my niece, you can do whatever you want to do. And that's what my parents taught me. So that's what we teach the future generation. So I think it will definitely change. My sister's a doctor, same thing. I mean, she did whatever she wanted to do, and she's out there killing it and doing great. And so I think that's kind of the lessons that we'll pass down to women in the future.
So considering your background, what was one of the things that you take from your background and your upbringing, from being a child of immigrant parents? I know I myself am a child of immigrant parents. I know one thing that I always push forward is because for me, it's like they sacrifice so much for us. Like we cannot let them down. Like we have sort of a responsibility and kind of like a burden, I feel also sometimes, to do well, to do good because of them, for them, so that whatever they sacrifice or the things that they did for us here, that it's not, wasted. Yeah. So I think we carry a lot of that.
I agree with that. I think, for me, watching my parents go from nothing to successful, and everybody's definition of success is different, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But, watching my parents do that through hard work, I think that's the biggest lesson that they instilled in me, is that you can, especially in this country, right? You can do anything you want if you work hard and you're determined. And so, I will say in the past 9 years, I got to this point because I remember that teaching, and that's what we teach in our family. And that's what so I know that's what my sister and my brother-in-law teach their children. That's what I'll teach my children.
Yeah, the values,
The values of working hard and being persistent, and especially as, for me, there's a little bit of an advantage, right? We're westernized. We are the first generation in this country. But you can imagine, I think for my parents, it was very difficult. Same for your parents. It's very difficult. You come to a whole different country, different culture.
A different language. You don't speak the language.
Yeah, different language.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And to go from that to being successful. And then the one thing I think also that my parents taught me is they're so generous, for their own children, their own family, and just other people.
Yeah, and the way they raise you to sort of consider other people as a community, right?
Correct. And I think for children of immigrants, they teach that, we worked hard and we became successful, but we want to pass on that mentality of giving. That is ultimately kind of the lessons I've learned from my parents and how they immigrated. And I don't think that's
so true.
Lesson you can learn without being the child of somebody like that.
I agree. And I think there are certain values that you carry with you. I married my husband, and he's also a child of immigrants. And I feel like the way we connected, even though we're both very culturally different, very different culturally, are similar value systems in terms of the way we were raised, the way we approach money, the way we approach parents. How important it was for me to be home with my parents when they needed me, and not give me grief about that. And he knew that and understood that. When I was paying for my parents, cars, and I was already still married, but I was still paying for their stuff sometimes, and he understood those things because those are values that we kind of understood as kids, right? And you kind of grew up with that. And I always say, like, people who are always like dating and out there, and like, you have to find somebody that kind of understands those values too, because those are things that you just carry with you forever. Like being frugal. I mean, it's
frugal.
huge.
I'm so frugal.
I know, and I'm super resourceful. And my husband's always like, I always know that you're always gonna have something because you're just like your mom. Like, you always find a way to figure it out. Like, that's just the things that you carry with you. And you don't spend just to spend. You're very careful about where you spend your money.
I'm
and you're saver. Exactly. We're both big savers.
Listen, when I go to HEB, I'm over here like, which one is a better deal?
I know.
Because at any moment in time, I think the other lesson I learned growing up was that you can be successful one moment and you can lose it the next.
Right.
So you always have to be prepared for that and be humble. And I think those are all great lessons I'm still learning. I mean, I still have the majority of my life to live. And I mean, these are all lessons that I'm learning now and just now kind of figuring out and like, being like, oh, okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah, you do. You figure them out over the years. And then how you want to raise your kids, with the same values.
Right, exactly.
Even though they have more, you still want to raise them to be humble and to want more and to take care of each other and take care of everyone.
Because I think you always want
Love that.
every generation to be more successful
than
you are.
Yeah.
And that's the same for other female surgeons who are below me. I want them to be more successful than I will be, in my future.
So do you find mentorship something important to you?
Super important. I mean, my mentors, I've had male and female mentors. My favorite mentor, her name is Dr. Klimberg. She's at UTMB in Galveston. I met her when I was a general surgery resident in Arkansas. And once again, I mean, just seeing, she's such a pioneer in the field of breast surgical oncology. I mean, she was treating so many women and, but she's so humble. And she used to take me out for coffee every weekend in Arkansas, every weekend. And we would just talk about life and work. And when I told her I wanted to do plastic surgery, super supportive. She helped me. She came to my general surgery graduation. She actually came and flew to my plastic surgery graduation in July. I mean, for somebody who's so busy, I mean, I tell her all the time. I always tell her, I'm like, I love you. You're like my mom.
Wow.
And she's very much like family. And I very much respect the fact that she trained at a time when it was very challenging because it was a male-dominated field. I respect the fact that she's humble and that she's innovative and that even now, she could do whatever she wants, but she chooses to help all these women. And I remember when I went to her going away party, all of those patients that came back and spoke so highly of her and were so grateful. I mean, it's just like, they don't have to do that, but they're just so appreciative because she, saved so many lives. And I remember thinking, like, I always tell people, if I can be like 10% of who she is,
amazing,
I'll be happy with that. Because it's like this impossible standard almost for me to be like that. But I will try every single day,
But it's something that you'll carry as a mentor yourself one day, right? Yeah. Those lessons that she taught you, you'll teach those to another
she is
up-and-coming doctor.
Oh, yeah. She's huge on education. She taught me, and I feel like I have a responsibility to teach other people. I enjoy teaching. And so for me, it's like, we have students or residents or anybody who comes in, like I'm happy to teach them. I love doing research. So, these are all things that were instilled in me when I was going through that I think are important to pass on.
That's fantastic. And I love that. I love that story. And I think mentors are so important. I think my mentors really, affected me and really, I still carry them.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Carry them with me. So let's switch a little bit of the topic. And I want to talk a little bit about pop culture.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a big thing. And I read an article recently that said something like girls and young women are just becoming so, disillusioned with themselves and their bodies because of social media. Do you find that you're getting a lot of that in the practice and a lot of younger women coming in and wanting to change their bodies? The Kardashian effect, for example, has been something that's actually documented where women have definitely decided that they wanted to come in and get the bigger butts.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
I think when younger women come in, or especially any patient who comes in who's very social media savvy, the first thing I counsel them on when they show me pictures of celebrities or other women is that, one, this is a great photo, sure, but it may be filtered, it may be edited, it may be photoshopped. I'm so glad you said that. And then two, their body is very different from your body. And while we can either look at things that we don't like about that photo or that we like about that photo and think about what can be applied to you, you have to understand that this is not your body type and it may never be your body type, And I think it's good to have ideas and wishes and goals, but I do feel like sometimes when patients come in, I have to counsel them that these photos may not be necessarily what they're seeing and it may not be the right option for them. So I do think that there are patients that come in like that, but then there's also on the flip side, patients who come in and they show me a photo and they're like, please don't make me look like that. I want a more natural look.
Okay.
So,
but do you find that being a doctor, a cosmetic surgeon, are we encouraging that?
So I don't think that we're necessarily encouraging. I feel like it's a tool for education. At least when patients come in and show me those things, I have to tell myself, okay, this is social media. This is what this is. And that's an opportunity for me to educate them about kind of what they're seeing and how that applies to them. And then in turn, I think you can see kind of the wheels start to turn in their mind. And then it gets passed on because they go and see their friend and they tell them, oh, well, this is what the doctor told me. So while there are components of social media that may not be the best, I think we as physicians can turn it around and use it as a tool for education.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah. That's not necessarily one way. You can educate, because I think education happens a lot in your practice, correct?
A lot.
And you have to talk to them and go through procedures and what can happen and this and that. You have to go through a lot of that.
And in the day and age of social media, right? So it used to be in the old days, right? Like it was word of mouth that got you referrals. But in the age of social media, there's so many people out there posting their opinions. It may not necessarily be evidence-based or factual medicine. And so I think, part of our job as surgeons and physicians is to counsel those patients. So while social media is a great promotional tool, I think that there's also a side of it that may not be accurate and that we have to kind of counter. And the best way to do that is by sitting patients down and saying, this is what the research shows. This is what the evidence shows. So I think there's pros and cons to it.
And bringing a realistic point of view, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think what happens in social media is the highlights. It's the idealistic life that they're leading. Yes. It's not necessarily their life all the time.
Yeah, and exactly. It's like, social media, I think I was watching something where it was like, social media is where you can portray the life you desire to live, right? Yes. You can put any sort of image out there that you want, right? Mm-hmm. And you would hope it's a positive influence on whoever is watching you. But at the same time, I always tell patients, you have to remember, you don't know this person. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what the situation was. And so because you're seeing a photo that may be edited doesn't mean that that's necessarily what's going to work for you.
Exactly.
And I think they get that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's a good thing to always be educating and always talking about that because, there's an emphasis now with body positivity too, where you do want to love your body for what it is. And I think that's also good. But I think if you wanted to change something about your body to make you feel positively good about it, why not?
That is body positivity.
It is. I mean,
it's once again, it's like it's taking
another form of self-love, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're taking an already good body or great body, and you're making it better. That's body positivity for sure.
I love that. And it just brings up the confidence in you. And I think I remember having this conversation with another doctor and just being, very, very clear about, you just educate the women and just let them know that this is, how it is and this is how it can be. And, and I remember we mentioned a while back, or we talked a little bit about the Brazilian butt lift, which is something that's very popular now.
Correct.
And you're going to be doing a promotion for that. And I'm excited to share that with my audience because you ladies have been waiting and y'all been asking, and we're finally going to be doing a promotion and a giveaway. So tell me a little bit about that procedure and why that one has become so popular. Is it also the Kardashian effect?
Well, I think that, yes, there's definitely an effect from social media and celebrities having it done. But also, liposuction has been going on for years, right? And when the fat used to be discarded, I think now the change has shifted to where can we use that fat, right? And so we use that fat for numerous things. I mean, for breast reconstruction. So after breast cancer, you can use it. For breast augmentation, you can use it, meaning patients don't want an implant and they want the fat, but also it can be put in the buttock area. And, you have women who come in. I've had women come in and tell me, put in as much fat as you can and make me as big as possible. And I want that Kardashian look. And then I have other women who come in and say, I already have like a nice athletic backside. Can you just put a little bit more in to make it look a little bit more natural so that my clothes will fit better?
Okay.
And so I always make a note to ask the patient, what is your goal? Do you want a more natural look? Do you want a more exaggerated look? And with the use of fat, you can get either look, and it's all about what the patient wants and what will make them happy, And so I think with the advent of what's called fat grafting, which is what that is, where we put fat from one place into another place, that has really revolutionized surgery, plastic surgery.
And research the doctor before you do it.
Yeah, correct.
Be very careful about looking into the doctor, making sure they're board certified and they have a record, right?
Yeah, correct.
Of success.
Correct. So I feel very strongly, I'm a little bit biased, obviously, because I did all the training, but safety in any surgery, it doesn't matter, general surgery, plastic surgery, whatever you're doing, safety in any surgical procedure is the most important thing. And so I think when patients are doing their research, anybody can advertise their cosmetic or aesthetic surgeon, okay? But you have to really look into what is their background, what is their training. And for me, I'm board eligible, meaning I've already taken 50% of my boards and I'll take the rest next year and hopefully get a board certification in plastic surgery. I'm already board certified in general surgery.
Okay.
But you want to go to somebody who is, in my opinion, who did a plastic and reconstructive surgery training, okay, and then also somebody who is board eligible or board certified, because that means that they've gone through the standards that are set to perform safe surgery. And in the realm of aesthetic surgery, it's all elective, meaning it's not an emergency. So you wanna have the best
time,
outcome,
right? You have the time to research and look into it,
and you want to be safe. You want to go to sleep, wake up, have a fabulous result, and go out and live your life.
I typically think that if the deal sounds too good to be true, it's probably not a good deal.
It could be for sure. I think the way that people price depends on location, who they're marketing to. But I think, once again, it's like you have to really, anybody can have a nice website, anybody can have a nice social media.
Right.
You have to look into their credentials, and you really have to look into that. And don't be afraid to ask your surgeon.
Yes, ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, I've had patients come in and ask me, what's your training? What's your background?
Yeah.
I have no problems answering that question because I think that it's their right to know. They should be able to know that. And if they want to know, ask.
They should. Yeah. Ask any question. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like, I feel like you're an open book. So guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about Dr. Kumbla, and what she does and what she practices. We're going to have that information. We're going to give you the description. She's also going to be very big on the podcast, and you're going to also be looking for her stuff and all of her promos and all of the giveaways on the Vibes by Alicia Instagram account, as well as on the description for this podcast episode. So before we go, before we let you go have your day, I know that you're a true crime fan, which I am as well. I am as well. I fall asleep to true crime.
Yes.
I put it in my headphones. I want you to recommend a few podcasts that you listen to or a show that you like.
Okay, I watch Dateline regularly.
Yes, love Dateline.
I love Keith Morrison. Keith Morrison is my
His
favorite.
voice makes me go to sleep, and I love that. It's like he's like a lullaby.
I know. I love it. I think Dateline's a great one. Serial, the podcast Serial.
Yes.
Such a great one.
Which was one of the first podcasts that came out that was big. That became big. Yeah.
So good. Those are the big ones that I watch. I also watch a lot of 2020. So, and then any documentaries I can get my hands on, I'll watch. So whatever's on Netflix, Hulu, I think my Netflix recommendations is like all true crime now because like that's all I watch. So I'm going to have to start mixing it up.
Yeah. No, it's a way to disconnect from reality. It's like, but some people assume that it's like, why do you like that violence? I think what I'm really intrigued by is how they find somebody who committed, like the whole forensics. Component. I love that.
You know what really has fascinated about me, and I was like, oh, if I wasn't a surgeon, I would do this, is the whole thing of genetic genealogy where they're using family trees and family histories to solve cold cases.
After many, many years.
I mean, think about like when they tell the family we solved it and they've caught the person who has been living their life, for whatever X amount of years, and they brought, justice to that person. It's really an amazing thing.
It's fascinating.
It's so amazing.
It's fascinating. I mean, they find like a brother or a cousin and then they hone in on the person, right?
For the longest time, I was like, I want to be a medical examiner. And then I was like, no, my true calling is, to do plastic surgery. So, but I will admit, a true crime junkie for sure.
Oh, I know. I am too. I love them and all the documentaries too. But guys, I want you all to please follow her. Where can they follow you? What is your Instagram account, or where should
we have two. So my personal one is just my name. It's Pallavi space Kumbla MD. I probably am the only one that pops up with that name, to be honest. And then the second one is ACPS Fellowship.
Okay.
And I've linked on my personal one to that. And then if you go to our fellowship one, you can also find me through that. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. And so find her, and you'll get more information on her from us and from what we're doing and the promos that we're going to be putting out there for you all too. So keep an eye on those. You definitely want to get on those promos and win all these. Thank you so much
for
being on the podcast. It's been such a joy. We've been working together, and I think I'm just excited for the future.
Yeah. This is an amazing podcast. It's been an amazing experience. So I love what you're doing, and thanks for including me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.